fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. I'm here at the wonderful Eric Luce. Am I saying your last name correctly? I should have asked this beforehand, but we're asking it now, I guess.
You are. I am loose like a goose. It's easy to
Okay.
remember.
Noted, and I will keep track of that one. We are very lucky to have him on. He is from ProofKit. ProofKit is a fantastic FileMaker consulting company. It has been around for a long time. Its current version, I think, has been around for 10 years, probably longer. But it's between Todd Geist and the other people running have all been around in FileMaker community basically since FileMaker started. So they are absolutely fantastic. They used to run pause on air. I don't believe that's happening this year, right, Eric? I don't
Not
think.
this year, correct?
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll miss it. Hopefully it comes back again
I
at some
know.
point, but I know that Martha Zink is busy, so I don't blame her at all. Uh, but if it does pop by, it'll be great. Anyway, they're fantastic. We love having them on. Todd Geist will be on with us in 2 weeks. Eric is here for some really interesting stuff. So he is talking about building a next level web app with FileMaker, which will be really fun. I'm curious. I was talking to him about it before, and it sounds really interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Real quick, we do this 5 days a week on 3 different platforms. So you can join us on Discord, YouTube, or Twitch. Feel free to drop on one of the platforms. If you decide you don't like the platform you're on, let me know. I can give you a link to somewhere else. If you'd like to support the channel, we do this subscription thing. We have video training about a wide variety of topics. Basically, if you're totally new to the FileMaker platform, you can be very easily made familiar with it watching our video training. I know people don't like our our live streams are conversational, live, and long. We cover a really huge variety of topics that doesn't get covered, frankly. Well, we cover a lot of what we cover does get covered in our video training, but a lot of what like today's topic, for example, is not going to appear anywhere in our video training by any means. So, but there are people who have very specific wants and needs, like they just want to build a report in FileMaker. That's what you get the video training for. I promise that it will be of use to you. And also, you should drop by ProofKit and check out some of their stuff. They have a lot of really Todd is coming by to talk about AutoFMS, which would be really awesome. They do a lot. They have a lot of really awesome blog. We've had Corn Walker on here before, which is probably giving some of the best explanations of JSON functions and transactions that I've ever seen. They're a really fantastic company. We do love working with them. So feel free to give either of us a ring, frankly, if you feel like supporting us. If not, no worries. For people who have already, thank you very much. Eric, what are we doing today?
Well, we could do a whole variety of things, but yeah, I want. So we'll see. Definitely reach out via the chat if you have questions or something. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I wanted to talk about how do we build what I coined a next level web app based on FileMaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we probably want to start back from the beginning and just talk about why. Like, why do we build? What is the point of building a web app? Or maybe I want to say using web technologies such as
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript with our FileMaker apps. Some people think that you have to have one or the other, but you've probably seen there's tons of ways you can integrate with web viewers, or you can have these custom web portals, right? Um, I don't know. How do you want to start with that? Like, have you personally had a need for, say, like a customer portal that you want people to view in a browser without having to download a FileMaker client? That's probably
I've
the most common case.
I've heard
Yeah,
people need that. I've never had to build it for myself, but that's because the company I work for doesn't need something like that. But I've
sure.
seen people pop up with questions about that and that kind of need a lot in my training
Yeah.
chat, which is why there's always a sustained interest in WebDirect, right? Not that that necessarily solves the problem. That doesn't so remotely, sorry, that doesn't even remotely solve the same problem. But they fumble around trying to figure out what web technology is, what they're supposed to use to solve their issues. So,
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's really how I know we were talking before we all
mhm,
started about like my background, right? So I mean I started in FileMaker 14. So I've it's been over 10 years now or something like that I've been working in software development and FileMaker specifically. And the
mhm,
solutions I was building, I ran into that problem. It was like I need something because I want people to just load this in a browser, and WebDirect just wasn't there. I came in either just whatever kind of bugs it had, or it just wasn't working the same way, or in reality, you really just want more control, right? You want to control what the URL is. You want to control like the things around the page. Maybe you want to control the login experience or allow some anonymous access to just quickly fill out a form. There's all kinds of reasons. Um, and the good thing is that once you learn web technology,
mhm,
when I say that, I'm talking about JavaScript, kind of the whole JavaScript ecosystem
mhm,
broadly. Um, once you learn that, there's just so many things you can do, right? Like, I remember being frustrated just by the auto layout tools in FileMaker that I can't have proper responsiveness or something, right? But those are things that like, and there's so many components in the web world, so we get a lot of advantages to doing it.
Hmm.
But let me ask you this, because you told me earlier that you're not a web dev, right?
Yes.
and
Yes.
and you might say, well, I just don't have a need to. But a lot of people, they find that kind of stuff interesting, and yet it's like, oh, it's too hard. Like I just don't know where to start,
I'm
right? Or
very
it's like,
spoiled by FileMaker scripting language. It's real
yeah,
easy to read. I grew up
yes,
with it, and I'm like, all
exactly,
the other stuff looks I mean, I know what a variable is, but other than that, I don't.
right,
It all looks incomprehensible and very scary. Yes, absolutely.
right. That is true. And I get that a lot. Like I've talked with FileMaker developers. We hear this from people on our own team that work only
Hmm.
in FileMaker, right? Like, web's cool, but it's just there's just too much of a barrier there, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Yes.
really what I set out to do because I dove deep into the web world several years ago, and so now I'm just entrenched in it. Um, and rather than, and there's things we could learn from the web world as FileMaker developers,
Hmm.
but what I have built and what I really want to show off today is this tool that we build at Proofgeist that helps FileMaker devs build web apps. And it is, there's a lot we could, it's kind of a high promise, right? I know. But I think if you can follow along at home, if you haven't seen this yourself, we can use the tool to try to build a web app. And then hopefully you can see that it's maybe not as hard as you thought. And then the best thing is, especially this is like the modern revolution. Have you heard of, I don't know if you've heard of AI, artificial intelligence has been out there, right?
What?
So if you haven't
No,
heard, there's
never
this
heard
thing
about it in my
sweeping
life.
sweeping the world. I know. And what's really great is AI is very, very good at writing web code. So you can learn from AI. You can use AI as a really good tool to help you write the code that you don't know how to write. And if you can get over and what I'm telling you now is if you haven't looked into that, now is the time because it's coming. Anyway, so
Yes. So this
yeah,
sounds really awesome, like legitimately. Okay, so in that case, where do we start? So you said
let's
there's a
start. So,
cool tool. So
do you
go.
want me? Yeah, if I'll share my screen and then you can, and then we'll just go from there. How's that sound?
It sounds good to me.
All right, so this is the tool, the Proofkit tool that I'm going to be using.
Okay.
Um, and so I can walk through. If you want to go to this yourself, this is proofkit.dev.
Okay.
If anyone watching wants to try for yourself, you can, if we're just jabbing on and you want to get started, just go right on to proofkit.dev and go through the getting started guide. So I will run through this, but I want to quickly just go over the requirements. So if you get in the getting started guide, uh, you will see you will see these requirements here. So you do need Node.js. You can just click here. It's a free download. Get it installed. You're going to need a code editor. So
Okay.
Visual Studio Code is a free code editor. I will be using an AI enhanced code editor
Hmm.
that is paid, but that's not required to do this. It's just probably if you want to use the AI tools, you'll need that. Once you have Visual Studio Code installed, if you don't already have Git installed, Git, that is source control software that is necessary for code dev. Visual Studio Code can help you install that. So there's a few instructions here. And then, although not required, I would highly suggest a different package manager than the one that comes with Node, which is PNPM. And that's this. It has a different install script here. There's lots of ways to install it depending on how you want to do it. Anyway. So
Got it.
if it's okay, I'll just skip over those things because these are kind of all listed here, and
Hmm.
we'll jump into the terminal. I
There
am
we go.
using Ghost. Here we go.
Going right to the
Okay,
scary stuff.
right to the scary stuff. Now, don't be afraid of terminal. Terminal is just chatting with your computer. Have you ever heard that before? I mean, it's okay, right?
Yes.
So that's all we're doing. And so now that I've got all those prerequisites installed, especially PNPM. You can check if you're not sure. You can just do like PNPM-V, right? You see, okay, I've got it installed. That just checks the version, and so you know it's installed.
Got it.
So once I have that installed, I'm going to type my command proofkit PNPM create proofkit because I'm starting a brand new project from scratch. Is what we're doing here. It might have to download a package real quick, and here we are. This is proofkit. So it's going to walk me through. It's going to guide me through the setup. So will your project be called? Did you have a project that we're building, Margaret, or is that all on me? I
Oh,
forgot. What should we
I
call this thing?
uh I cannot right on like let's do fantasy novels or something. I write, that's my hobby. So that was the first thing that came to mind.
Fantasy novels. Okay, here we go. It doesn't matter what we call it, just the name here.
Yes.
Now, I know I didn't mention this earlier, but ProofKit actually can help you build either web apps for browsers or FileMaker web viewer integrations. So that might be something that we get into later or tomorrow when I come back to go more into the web viewer, but let's stick with
Yes.
browsers for now, if that's
Okay.
okay. Yeah. So here we go. And look, the app is already built, by the way, but it's asking us, hey, do you want to connect to FileMaker? You probably want to connect to FileMaker. So we're going to connect to FileMaker. Do you want to connect to File? And I could say no, and I could go right in, but for all the fun stuff, let's go ahead and connect to FileMaker during this setup. So I'll say yes,
Yes.
and I need the URL of my FileMaker server. Now, that's the other prerequisite I didn't mention. You do need AutoFMS, which is that tool Todd is going to talk about, but this is a free tool that you can just install on your FileMaker server. So I'm gonna go to this dev server that I've got set up. I've got AutoFMS running on here, and it'll ask me to log in. I'll just do it now. We won't go too deep into like what is AutoFMS. There's like it'll do a bunch of stuff for you, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what Todd's going to talk about next time. So just it is required to be installed on your server for this to work. And then I'm
Got
just going
it.
to copy this URL and go back to my terminal and paste it in. And I can any URL from the server it'll work because the tool is smart enough to figure it out. It pops up a thing that asks me to log into that server. Since I was already logged in, I just get this successful prompt.
Mm-hmm.
So now if I go back to the terminal, it's going to say, which file do you want to connect to? So it already knows which files are on my FileMaker server. So I can just go down here and I can pick a file that I want to connect to. And I'm going to pick this Foxtail one because that's the one I've been using for all my demos. But even if you don't have a file that you want to play with, you can just deploy a new file and it will install a new
What?
file on your FileMaker server. That's AutoFMS's magic for you.
Okay.
But ProofKit obviously can integrate with it. So
That's
if you
fun.
just want to play around, deploy a new file and see what's in there, right? And just play around. That's totally fine. That's what I mean. This tool is meant to be for you to just dive in and try this stuff, right?
Okay, that's
And then
cool.
when you're ready to go real, go ahead and connect to a real file. This is how we would do it. So I'm going to pick my demo file. Now to connect to the data within the file, we're going to use the data API. And because we have Auto installed on the server, we're going to use the data API proxy feature of Auto, which just makes it easier to get. We don't have to manage tokens and sessions. It does all that for us. So Auto, that's one of the features of AutoFMS is you can go to API keys and you can create these data API keys, which are kind of like a stand-in for your file credentials. I've already created that, so it's suggesting it to me here that like this data API key will connect to this file. And so if I didn't have that, I would just have to enter credentials under that second option. But I'm just going
Okay.
to use the existing one. Why make another one? This one works fine.
Yes.
So I'm going to select that. Now it's actually using that data API key to connect to my file. And it says, what layout do you want to read your data from? And I've got a couple in this file, just some API layouts, customers and invoices. We'll pick customers for now. It wants a friendly name. It's suggesting just customers. I won't type anything. I'll just press enter. And that's the connection to FileMaker. All done.
Okay.
So it added the layout. It's just doing all this stuff behind the scenes and making it really easy for me to get started. While that's installing, I am gonna go in here and Foxtail. Yep.
Okay.
I'm just gonna open up that FileMaker file so we can kind of see what we're working with, right?
Yes. I have a real
Okay.
quick question to drag
Yeah.
you back down to earth. So you said you need an API key, which you said FM REST, so you just need to create a data API key for FM REST, and that's
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So if I go into my security
mm-hmm.
preferences, I've got a username. It doesn't the privilege set doesn't matter as long as you have data API enabled, access the FMREST
Got
privilege.
it. Okay, so you
Yep.
need DAPI.
That's all you
Okay.
need.
Yep, got it. Okay.
So any account that has that, it'll work. And if you try to create an account that doesn't have that, you'll get an error. So it'll tell you you gotta use
Okay,
data API connection. So yep.
got it. Okay. Just making sure that I
But this
understood
is just
that.
a standard user. I'm using this is, I mean, it's a basic data entry only. Is this you
Mm-hmm.
can make a custom one, but it's just the quick way to say I want to create, edit, and delete in all tables,
Okay.
right? Just so
So,
I can
and the
read
only
my
privilege
data.
set required is the DAPI privilege set. Okay.
Yep, exactly. Anyway, and this is that API customers layout, by the way, that we're connecting to. So do you notice something interesting about this layout? Maybe like how many records it has?
Oh, that is a substantial chunk of records. Yes.
Substantial in FileMaker terms. But
Yes.
I want to warn you that the web has no problem with this, and I'll show you that in a minute.
Really?
We'll get to that. Yes, exactly. Okay, so it's giving us some next steps here. So we've made our project. In order to progress forward, we now need to open our project. Now, a project in web world is a folder full of a bunch of code files because web code is lots of text files, basically, not
Okay.
just a single FileMaker file like you're probably used to.
Yes.
So it tells me we need to navigate to the project directory and do the rest of these commands from there, or open it in your code editor for the rest of the commands. So cd just means change directory. But since I have the code command installed, I can type code fantasy novels, and then that will open that folder in my code editor. Okay, so this is Cursor, which is very similar to VS Code. And let me make this bigger a little bit, right? We said.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so you should see this is the fantasy novels folder, and these are all the files. If it helps, let me also just say reveal in Finder, right? So you can kind of see
Yes.
like
Okay, that
this
does help actually to like
this is what we're
mentally.
doing, right?
Okay.
It's just a bunch of files. I don't know what any of these mean, but I don't care. It's fine.
So you're just opening this folder into actual like a code editor, is what you're saying,
A code
basically?
editor, yeah. So
Yeah.
code editors are always folder based, and so they're going to show you all your files in your project over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can open a terminal that will be
Interacts with it.
inside of that folder, right?
Got
And
it.
so now I'm going
Okay.
to run all my stuff, and everything is good to go. So if I remember from my next steps, or I could go back, the step I need to run is pm dev. Now this is the command you're going to run all the time. This will start up a dev server, which is a web server that is running on my local computer to actually serve the web code. And this is how web development works, right? Is you do have a web server that
Mm-hmm.
is in addition to your FileMaker server.
Okay.
Although the framework we're using here to build all this can be run on serverless environments, which things like AWS Lambda or Vercel is a platform that runs on top of that, basically. And they're really cheap to run because you don't actually need a new server that costs you hundreds of dollars a month. You just pay for any time someone requests your URL. Anyway, that might be getting to, but once I do that, it says here's
Mm-hmm.
a local host URL, and if I click on this, I get my web app. I'm gonna open it full screen here. This is the web app that it generated for me. It's a single page. It doesn't do too much, but this is a web page that is being served to me from my web server, just all within my machine.
And it's
Okay.
connected to FileMaker. Okay, yes.
It is not yet. Well, it's kind of connected to FileMaker. I'm not
Oh.
loading any data there yet, but I'll show you that next. Um, in fact, yeah, let's just jump into that. So that's all cool. That works. But if I cancel this command with Control C,
Mm-hmm.
I can run the ProofKit command instead of the dev command. So we started with pm create ProofKit, and now that we've already created a project, I'm going to run the ProofKit command again, and it's going to detect now that I have a ProofKit project, and now I'm going to make changes to that existing project, do more and more
Okay.
stuff. And it's not working. What is going
Oh.
on? ProofKit. There we go.
There we go.
So there's ProofKit
Okay.
again. I found a ProofKit project. What do you want to do? And I want to add a page. So I'm going to say add components, add a page. This is the customers page, right?
Yes.
So slash customers. And I want to use this infinite table editable because that's the most exciting demo, but the other ones are good too. And it's going to do all these things, and it's working, and it's done. Okay, so now to preview this page, I need to run my dev server again. So I'm going to run that pm dev command. I'm going to tab back over to my browser, hit refresh. And what you should see is in the corner here, I have customers.
Ooh, that was
Okay,
surprisingly simple.
so we go to customers here, and there's all my records.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Did you see 29,000 records? I can just load them all. Here we
Oh,
go.
and it doesn't lag. You're kidding me.
This is web. Let me smooth scrolling and everything. Oh, but that's no good because surely I want to be able to search on this, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's
Open up
always
my
nice.
filters here.
What?
Ah,
No
sorry, there's no
Carltons.
Carltons. I could do Carl though, right? And there's 25 Carls. Okay. Now, what
That's
this did behind
cool.
the scenes, this is a FileMaker find. It did a find on my entire data set.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. That's cool.
And then I can sort too. I want to sort by gender then. And I want, whatever, right? All these
Mm-hmm.
features are just built into this table. It's all
Mm-hmm.
there. And yeah, so like that's really fun. So I'm going to clear all my sorting. I gotta click it again. So this is clear. Um, and
Is the sort also happening on the FileMaker end, or is it just doing it on the web page? And that might be a dumb question, but if it is, you can tell me why it is.
well, sorry, the sorting? Oh yeah, so the sorting goes through the data API. So I make a query and I want to say sort these
Mm-hmm.
records because otherwise you're only going to get so much.
Yes.
But if that wasn't good enough, I can double click on this and I can edit the data too. And there's the data edited. So watch, and like I'll do that again if that's let's rename this to
There we go.
Margaret. There it is.
That's awesome.
Okay, so we've
So,
got a full connection. We've got back and forth. We've got a web app that is connected to FileMaker data, right? We're going back and forth.
yes.
Do
So
we have any questions for
that's,
now? Or I have lots more I can show of what this can do. But like, or at least the things it can help you do. I mean, there's a lot more to building a web app beyond this, and we can dive into that. Maybe depending on timing, like maybe that's what we'll dive into tomorrow. But um,
yes. Okay. So no, I'm just busy processing because like
yeah,
you went like whoosh, and it's like,
I know.
oh,
But we got a web app now, and that wasn't so bad. It's
that
okay.
was not as horrifying as I thought it was going to be. Uh, so that's really cool. Okay, so what are the other different tables? You said this one was the coolest. What do
Well,
the
so
other ones do?
this one is the editing and infinite scrolling. By default, it might
Ah,
only load 100 records. So that's the biggest. The other templates are just kind of different versions of this.
got it.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. And this table component, I can customize it. Um, I suppose one thing we can try is we can
Mm-hmm.
try breaking the system. That's
Oh.
probably my favorite thing to do. I'm sure you would never do this, right, Margaret? But maybe say your client comes in here and wants to rename this field. That doesn't look right. This should be named last, right?
Yes.
So let's do that. FileMaker, this is no problem. FileMaker can handle that all the time.
Yes. Handles
But
it
if I
no
were to
problem.
refresh my page now, it doesn't rename the field. I wonder if I'm actually connected to this file. That's funny. I didn't save. Hold on. Name or last name. I guess that's what it was. I gotta actually change it. Last name. There we go. Renamed. Save the changes to my layout and refresh my web browser, and suddenly everything's broken.
Ah,
Right? Because it is, I
yes.
mean, there is a fickle connection there to some degree, but
Mm-hmm.
this is where I think the really cool part, this is where AI can come in and I can show you like why is AI cool, right? Like
Yes.
because if now that we have our code in this web environment, what can we do with it, right? And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things is AI. So again, you didn't see me change that record. Your client changed this record. They come to you and they say, "Hey, how come my web app isn't loading any data anymore?" Right? And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have no idea. I'm sorry, I have no idea. And let's pretend I didn't see that error message because
Yes.
the error message gives me a good hint. But I can come in here. Why is there no data loading in my data table? I didn't tell it whether I changed the field name, right? I didn't tell it how I'm loading my data. I didn't tell it how my web app works, but I just said, hey, it's not working. And the AI is just going to fix it.
You basically walked up to your code and you said, "Help me," and it went and
Yeah.
fixed itself. Oh, that's good. That's insane.
And so you can see it detected that change. It said, "Oh,
Yes.
wait a minute." It said, "You renamed this field." Right? And so it actually changed the code. It's going to recheck the types and then it's not it wants to run that command again. And here's my data back. Works.
I'm sorry if I'm laughing too loud and blowing out your eardrums.
It's good. I'm glad you're
That's
enjoying it.
that's awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. Uh,
So So yeah, this is, and there's, so we can go even further. I don't know if this is exciting
Yes,
enough, but
people are saying show more, please.
show
So
more, please. Okay. So
people are also
let's,
agreeing it's very cool. So
very cool. Okay. So this is a web app. I'm loading data. I've got it like, maybe you want to make some changes here and you can talk to AI and you can edit the code and we can go through all that. But before I can deploy this to anyone, I probably want to make you log in, right?
that would be nice. Yes.
That would be nice. Okay. Well, let's do that then. I'm going to cancel my dev server and guess which command I'm going to run again?
ProofKit.
Proofkit, add a component. I'm going to add authentication. So I can have two options here. Clerk is like a hosted auth provider where they manage all your users and stuff, but we're in
Interesting.
FileMaker land. I want to stay in
Yes.
FileMaker, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to add FileMaker add-on auth. For this to work, that basically what this is going to happen is we're going to set up a users table in our FileMaker file. We're going to store their passwords there, hash them all securely. Everything's like going to be contained right within
Mm-hmm.
FileMaker. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing that I cannot do directly without some other input is I need to know how do I send them their password reset emails or like a verification code to make sure they have a real email or some that kind of thing. So for that, you will need some kind of email provider, but I'm just going to pick other and we'll do it later. You can do this directly with FileMaker. Like if you're already sending emails with FileMaker, you can like have the web app call a script in FileMaker to send your email, right? Like that's all fine
Oh,
too.
okay, that's
So
nice.
yeah, you can do it all if you've already got that set up. So this is going to skip a step that I usually show in my demo, but basically, if your file doesn't already have the required layouts that this needs, it's going to prompt, it's going to pause, and it's going to say, hey, go install this add-on into your FileMaker file. So I'll just show you that real quick. That there, oops, cancel. So inside there is an add-on, this FileMaker auth add-on. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have it in your file, you'll have to just add it. And the CLI, the Proofkit CLI will install this add-on to your computer for you. So all you have to do is restart FileMaker and click install into your file. You don't have to download it from anywhere else. You don't have to, it'll just be there and then it'll work. But now that I've done that, let's restart the dev server.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to my web app and refresh. And if it all goes well, I should be prompted with a login page. Right? No, I didn't want to log in. I want to go to my customers page. Nope, can't. You got to log in. Man.
Okay, that's well,
Now, I think since I've done this demo before, I just want to make sure that I actually don't have an account. Or maybe I do. See, I already made an account, but I forgot what this password is. So I'm just going to say forgot password because I don't know what my password was. And so I'm going to send a reset email. That's fine. And so because we haven't set up any email yet, all this is going to do, this is back in my terminal. I've got that running dev server, right? So
Mm-hmm.
on my server side code, it just prints out the code that would have been emailed to me. So I'll
Oh,
just
okay.
copy that and paste it in because we're just in local dev mode here. We've got access to everything. And so I can make a new password and I'll just call this test stream. That works. And we're logged in. Now I can go to my customers page,
Nicely done.
right?
It even tells you what account you're logged in the top right corner.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
exactly.
is top right.
And the
Yeah.
cool thing is, so this is under, if I go to sessions, so sessions, this is my logged in session, right? So I can
Mm-hmm.
manage this from within FileMaker. This is a record in my FileMaker database. And if I want to forcibly log someone out, I just delete this record. And then the next time they try to navigate anywhere or refresh the page, you're logged out,
It drops them right back to you. That's awesome. I love that.
right?
That's very cool.
And I can log back in. So here's my, what do I do? Test stream. There we go, right? So I can log back. If I want to actually kick them out, I might have to like, change their user record and all that. But the other cool thing is like you can add more fields to these tables. You can like they're just they're just tables in the thing. You can they are related. So this add-on kind of installs this little group of tables, but
Mm-hmm.
you can like link this to your own users table, or you can just there's lots of ways you can do it if you really want to dive into it. But it makes it extensible and it keeps it within your FileMaker database, which is really nice for a lot of projects, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Someone's asking where can they get the add-on? Like, is the add-on kind of installed when you
add-on
run
is
the...
installed when you run the command. You don't
Got
have
it.
to, there's no like anywhere else to get it. It's all within Proofkit.
Nice. That's very
So I didn't
nice.
show that very well, yeah, but that's like a little bit of the secret sauce of the add-on is when you go and add, same for the web viewer, there's an add-on for the web viewer as well.
Hmm.
And when you do that, if you don't, it'll reach out to your file and it will look for those layouts. And if it doesn't exist, it'll give you instructions. Here's how to add the add-on to your file.
That's really cool.
Yep.
We have a quick question. Is it only in English or can you work in other languages? The results page, I mean.
The results page, like this page or the login page. I have yeah, I mean like in theory it can work. I will say that this what it's doing right now, the way it's scaffolding out this app
Hmm.
is not been localized. But that is another feature that web apps are generally really good at that you can like add different localizations. So
Hmm. I wonder if you could ask the AI to localize it to a different language and what it would say.
you could yeah, that's definitely something. Yeah, the trick with I don't want to get too much into a tangent on this,
Yes.
but you do have to like there is working with AI, at least right
Hmm.
now, maybe this will change, next month, but with the way AI moves and stuff, but you do have to kind of be very directed and give AI small tasks to work on. And so breaking stuff down into
Yes.
steps and then telling it to work on steps, like if you plan things out, you're going to get better results in general. But yeah, in theory, that is something you could have it do. You could say, build me, how do I make a like you could just ask it. I mean, that's a good thing to just ask just to see what it would do. But sometimes what you can do in Cursor, if I do a new chat and I go to an ask mode, um, what would it take to localize this web app? Give me a step-by-step plan to accomplish this, right? And I can just ask that question to the chat,
See what
right?
see
And
what
it uses the
happens.
see what happens. I don't even know. But like this is the thing that like Cursor specifically has tools to like look through your project directory and read files and
Hmm.
it can understand your code base and all these things and it can read the directory structure and it can do these kinds of things which can really help a lot, especially if you don't because I haven't dug into the code yet. I mean, we could do that if you want, but like a lot of times this is how you're going to be doing this is you're just going to be um, navigating it kind of this way. So I can read through the plan that it generated. It's saying, hey, you should probably add this library by running this command. And then you should create a directory for localization files. And then you have to, the hard part about localization, it can be a little tedious because every little bit of text that you have has to be like abstracted away, right? Like,
Hmm.
so that's
But
why I don't want to just tell it to just go
yes.
wild.
Yes. No, go have a
um,
ball and then blow everything up. Yeah, no, I totally
Exactly.
get that.
But every single time that you have any sort of text that's user facing, you have to translate it. So
We have a
anyway.
question. Can I create menus with submenu items?
Yeah, so that's like another really good question. Under the hood here, what this is using is a component
Hmm.
library called Mantine.
Hmm.
So Mantine is a React component library that's got a ton of features in it. And I will say, like, we're talking about like there's other UI libraries, user interface libraries that can help you build components.
Hmm.
Um, I actually don't know if this one has that level of navigation. It does though. It's got, if you're talking about like in the header, I think what you want is this, they've got these examples. So if you want like a header that has a mega menu, this might be like one example, right? Like
Yes,
here's an
I think that's what
example
they're
of a
talking
header.
about. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
something like this. You can't, this menu component does have submenus. I don't know if these examples show it, but like you can see there's a lot we can do here.
Okay,
So
so if I
this,
wanted one of these,
yeah.
how would I add this out of curiosity?
So
So,
this case, this gives you the code, the examples, right? Or you could just ask AI. You just may have to be more explicit to say, hey, use this Mantine example. Like in this is how we used to do it before AI is we'd have these codes and we would just copy. This is like a whole code file that you can just copy in and tell it to use it.
hmm.
Um, and you might and there's some CSS, some styling to make it work like that for sure. Um, there's one more thing I want to show before we run out of time, and I definitely want to come back to questions if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so if I go back to my web app, this web app is great. It's perfect. It's done. We pretend we've made all these features, you know, um, but it's useless unless I can share it with the world or I can send it to my client, right? So if I run the proofkit command one last time and I can deploy my code to a real URL that anyone else can see. I'm going to do this under I'll do it under our team plan because it might be a little faster, just a tiny bit faster. But this is a free thing you can do. And if you pay, you just get a little faster speeds.
Hmm.
This is going to set up my project on Vercel, which is a deployment platform. It's going to upload my code. It's going to start building my code. And this will take a few minutes where maybe we can ask some more questions while it happens. But when I'm done, this is the URL it'll have, right? And right now it's just saying building, so we can just let this spin. And when it's done, it'll just load. But that's the other cool thing that Proofkit can help you get there is now you have a real URL. And yes, you can change this URL. You can connect it to your own URL with Vercel. That's easy to do. But one of the features of Vercel is every time you make a change, it'll generate a new preview URL for you. So you can like check out your change before it goes live, to your web app.
Hmm.
So
That makes sense.
yeah.
Uh, Question, how do you deploy to a live server and handle future updates? I think
So
that's kind
this
of
is
what
a little bit of this. Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So this is deploying to a live server. Um, Yeah, and if you want to work on multiple servers, maybe I should show. So I'll open this and we'll just let it go. If I go to Vercel,
Hmm.
I'll go to my projects here. This is this isn't exactly this project. Well, I wonder if I can actually easily. What is it called? Fantasy. There it is. Okay, this is the Fantasy Novels project. So it doesn't yet have a production deployment
Hmm.
because it's still kind of in progress there. But you can go to environment variables and then you can say right now everything's production, but you can tweak these and you can say, okay, so this is the API key that I chose, the server and the database. These are all things I chose with the UI at the beginning.
Hmm.
And you can see it went to this file and stuff. You can make another set of those. Say I want to go, like if I go to FM server, I can do, my prod server.example.com, right? You'd have to make this the full server and all that's useful, whatever. But then you can say this is only for production. And then you might change these to say this one's only for preview, right? And then Vercel will automatically connect to say, if you have a dev server and a prod server in FileMaker, it'll
Hmm.
automatically switch between what it's connecting to
Okay, so it can
based
automatically
on these
tell.
environment variables. Mhm.
Okay,
And
so
then you can
base.
assign those based on domains. So you can say I want a different domain that links to my production app than my
Okay,
dev
so if
app.
you wanted to
Yeah.
add a specific domain, you would add it over here
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
Vercel. Okay, got it.
hmm Yeah, and then it gives you instructions on like here's the DNS entries you have to put on your domain to have it link up and everything, and it'll walk you through all that.
Okay, so to make sure that I understand, because
Sure.
Vercel is
No, I know it's a
basically,
valid question for sure. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
But this is like Vercel's bread and butter is like doing this kind of stuff. So
yes,
that's why I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. You can just deploy
you,
to the in
you
that
could
case.
just deploy to like Vercel. So basically, it's a service that actually hosts the web app,
It'll
well, the
host
web
the web
page.
server. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
the other thing that it's like, and there, if I go to, I don't know if I can say Vercel pricing. Let's see. Like it starts, their hobby plan is like, what are even the limits of it? It's like you can do a lot with the hobby plan. The biggest thing is that if you want like multiple devs start working, you charge per dev, and then you get more infrastructure usage, you get faster builds and stuff. But it's not a lot of people can do. So like you get 100 gigs a month of data transfer,
Hmm.
like all these function requests, because every time somebody loads your site, you're going to get a function. So especially for trying it out, just go with the free plan and you'll see how far you can get. I mean, I'm using the free plan for a ton of personal stuff and I just don't use it enough.
Okay.
Um, anyway, but
How would you connect Vercel back to ProofKit? Like, would it ask you if you?
well, so that's part of the Vercel CLI. So once it's
Hmm.
set up, you can just run. Let's see, did it finish yet? It's ready.
It's ready.
Yay. I'm logged in. What was my password again? Test stream,
Serving.
right?
Yes, test stream. Yeah.
There we are.
There we
And
go.
now I'm on, I can't really, maybe you can't tell, but I'm on like this. I'm not on my web server anymore, right? I don't have to have PNPM dev running. I'm on this weird site. Um, yeah, so typically we connect it via GitHub. So
Hmm.
that's one reason. So what we could do, I could walk through that briefly here. But that's another thing that AI can do, actually. can just ask it to use GitHub. I am not really sure how that works, but if I click publish to GitHub,
Mm-hmm.
it'll say create a thing, and I want a private repository. I'm already signed in, so it kind of knows I
Yes.
want a private repository on GitHub. It's going to just push that up. Do. And then I can say open on GitHub. That's great. And so now I've got my project on
Mm-hmm.
GitHub, which is if you think Git and source control is like a whole other topic we could go down. There's like a
It is
thousand
a rabbit
tutorials out
hole.
there. So if you're
Yes.
it's a rabbit hole. We're not going to probably get into it here, but the nice thing about it is now that I've got this connection, I can link this to Vercel. So let's go to Git and let's say log in with GitHub. And here's that one because it noticed I just pushed to it. I'm going to connect them together. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
married, right? And what you'll see is so this thing just happened. If I go back to my code and I'm just gonna this is my git commit. So if I close my terminal here,
Mm-hmm.
close, I just got so claustrophobic on my thing here. This is my testing for stream, whatever. I can commit all these things, and then if I just push this up to GitHub, what you'll notice is in a second, it may not, because I think it already, yeah, 6 minutes ago. So I actually have to make a real change probably. So let's use AI, my favorite. Fix all the column headers to use proper names. I don't know. That way instead of like camel case.
Ah.
And it's gonna edit the code for me. I don't even have to touch the code anymore. And let's see it's just gonna rename these. It's gonna say, hey, do you want to make these changes? I'll say yes, accept those changes. I can don't even write commit messages anymore. I can just click this button to say, use that, sync that up, we're done. Push that up to GitHub. And now here it is. Well, there's that testing for stream. Let me cancel this one, but you can see that it's automatically going to redeploy because on GitHub it noticed they're married now, right? So they
Got
can,
it. Okay, so it can
right?
pick up what's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's typically how we do it. Yeah.
okay. So how hard is it to upload files to containers and or AWS?
I will be honest with you. I do tend to avoid containers because they are a pain for me. The web world and the way that works, I do try to avoid that.
You pay a lot more for images
AWS,
and text.
other
Yeah.
containers, AWS, other frameworks, absolutely. Like there's just more, there's other services out there that are built for like managing files. So and there's lots of options out there. I can recommend a couple if you want, but that's just my opinion. There are ways to do it. I don't want to say it's impossible, but
Mm-hmm.
I avoid containers whenever I can, whenever possible. That's just me. Um, yeah.
Okay. If you really have to use the containers, like you need them real bad, any recommendations? Or is it just kind of like
Well, you
good
can
luck,
use the
friend?
data API to do it. It's just not fun. I don't know. It's like it's just there's so many edge cases. We tend to build I'm trying to think how because I really do just avoid them. I think the biggest way, like say you want to read data for like read a PDF from a container field,
Mm-hmm.
um, if I guess sometimes what I'll do is I'll write FileMaker scripts that push them somewhere else that's easier for me to deal with. That's one option.
Mm-hmm.
So I just write API scripts in FileMaker that can say like either the user has to push a button or every night or every cycle we just like upload all the container data to some other system and then like that's one way, but that requires like a separate database and there's some syncing that gets involved. If I want to just read the container data, you can write an API proxy route in your web app. It might be a little too complicated to really show, but basically, one of the things you can do in the web app,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is a good time to just kind of go over briefly the structure here.
Probably a good idea.
So, yeah, so this is. I should also first clarify. Proofkit is very, very cool, and I hope everyone loves it. However, it is not really all that special. I want to also clarify. Proofkit, this CLI that I built, this is a command line tool that helps you integrate with other existing tools, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
not meant to, it is not the only way to build a web app. It is not like you have to use, like Proofkit doesn't have any special sauce. All it's doing is it's adding these files to your project for you and setting them up and showing you this is how at Proofgeist we would build a web app. And so if you want to learn from experts like us, you should use it as a learning tool. If you want to build a thing like we would build it, go ahead and use this to start your project, right? And things like that. If you think about it more like that way, either as a learning tool or a way to get started quickly with some AI integrations and all that, this is what it is. However, under the scenes, if I look at my package JSON, which is just all of the real packages that I'm using under the hood,
Mm-hmm.
here's Bantine that you can see, right? I'm using this. These are for off. We do have the FMDAPI library is from Proofgeist, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
using that library. That's from us. And that's another question I get all the time, by the way. It's like, oh, I want to use all these cool like detecting the field names and all these things. That's from this library. It's not specific to Proofkit. So all of that is within here. And then the main one is Next.js. This is why I call it a next level web app, because we're using the Next.js React framework to build this app. So, and this is listed all in the docs too. Next.js and Vercel are also very close together, but this is the framework that we're really using under the hood. And so you could go through the docs and you could understand like now that you have an app, you can see that all of these things here, especially this app folder, this is a
Mm-hmm.
Next.js app. So under this main, app is like your root, and then anything in parentheses gets ignored. And if I go to slash customers page, this is my customers page that we looked at, right? So this is how we're routing
Got
stuff.
it. Okay.
And what I was getting at through all of that is that you can make route configs. I don't know if auth has this actually. Maybe under auth. I'm not sure, because these are all pages too.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, I don't know if I have any examples here, but instead of a page that renders like HTML and stuff for a web app, you can
Mm-hmm.
also build a API route, which just runs some code and can return JSON or HTML or XML or an image from your container data. Right. So sometimes that's what we do as well. If you want to read data from a container, you would build a new route. And so I might make, and I could ask AI to do this, but I don't know. I could say like slash API slash image, and then you make a route.ts, and that's just a Next.js thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. So now, and if I could, let's do this here. Scaffold a basic Next.js route handler that returns a hello world JSON example. This is so it can work while I talk. And then I'll run my dev server again. So this is just like this, as again, this is a standard Next.js thing, which is why AI knows how to handle it too, right? But
Yes.
if I now that it's done that, if I go back to my web app, which is Proofkit 3000, I can do API slash image, and I get the JSON response.
Got it.
Right. So I actually don't have any container data in that demo file. Otherwise, I might kind of go through that. But this
Mm-hmm.
would be where you'd want to go for like a proxy to read this. And then you can use this URL within your web app to like display an image if you've got an image in a container
I
field.
see. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense.
And so this URL would actually like get the image out of FileMaker and return it to you as like an inline image from the web. I hope that wasn't too long-winded, but there's a lot you can do here. This
No,
is
that
like the power of the web, you know?
yes, there's a lot to do. It can be overwhelming. No, ProofKit very much looks like it's a really easy way to get into it initially,
Right.
and it helps you navigate the initial like scary setup so that you're just
Right.
figuring stuff
And now
out
that you
as you
have
need it.
that,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. So like I have I do want to point out here the learning resources on the proofkit.dev docs.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to go through, hey, if you're brand new and you don't know what Git is or GitHub, read this paragraph and then go learn about Git and GitHub, basically. Right. If you this PMPM thing you saw me typing, what does that even mean? Read about this and learn about about that. What is a code editor? What is React? These are some very, very bare bones basics. And
Hmm.
there's a couple of tutorials that I'm linking to specifically, but some of these basic concepts, there's like 1,000 tutorials out there. So find your format that works best for you. If you like a video, if you like a blog post, if you like a whole course or whatever,
Yes.
there's a bunch of them. And most of these are free too. So
No, that makes sense. Uh,
yeah,
how do you
there's a
handle
bunch of those.
FileMaker database login credentials for DAPI on Vercel?
So that's all managed. All of that is encapsulated through the data API key that we went at. So if you saw, if I can't search this table, I need to make a request about that.
Feature request.
I know the people who wrote this app. I might even do this myself. Anyway, so this right here, this API key is my credentials. And
Hmm.
so all I had to do, and I can make a new one in this interface. This is auto. You pick your FileMaker file and you give it just a name, username, and password. And then what auto does is it stores that username and password in a revocable API token, and then you give this API token to Vercel. That's what we all set up. So if I look back at my environment variables, that's
Hmm.
this API key,
Got it.
right?
Okay.
This is the credentials right here. And then you can give it different credentials for different server, like I showed earlier.
There you
Yeah,
go. And ProofKit is free, question mark.
it is. Proofkit is free and open source. So you can go to it here. There's a link to the GitHub if you want to go deep into the code and you can actually read through all the code of everything that it does. You can make issues or, if you want to go that deep, you can, but it is open source. Like you can read the code. This is public. Um, and there's no charge for it. Really, the only thing I think I was looking through the documentation, the only thing that you have to pay for is FileMaker server, and I can't help that.
Yes, no,
So,
no, there's no helping the paying for the FileMaker server bit. Uh,
yes, but everything else, AutoFMS, which is required for ProofKit to do all of its magic, that is free. ProofKit is free.
hmm.
Vercel, you can get away with the free plan. GitHub is free. Everything's free except for
So,
FileMaker.
so for file, well, one of these days maybe.
But
Uh,
yeah,
uh, this is honestly really cool. There's been many times I've wanted to get into web development, but I look at it and I'm like, man.
yeah, exactly. I hear you. I hear you.
FileMaker is lovely, but in many ways I have been spoiled by its entire existence and it being the main language. I don't know if I really want to call it a language that I grew up learning. So it can be very daunting to get into this. So having this exist and having it do this sort of thing is really awesome. Um, so if I want to like change the color on the buttons, I would ask the AI to
Yeah.
change the color. Okay.
You actually could. Yeah. I mean, and it's actually not so I might need to add more things in here, but what color? Because it's probably pink.
Orange.
How do I change all the colors of my buttons to orange instead of the current color pink? And actually I'm gonna make a new chat so it kind of like defaults to like not trying to redo what I was doing before. And so I asked it, I probably should have said do it for me. That's another option maybe, but um anyway, you live and learn sometimes AI. I'm curious how much it does, but like I found the application is using Manti and React Framework, and the primary color, which affects buttons, is defined in a theme file. So it found the theme file and it changed the brand color to a new color. And by changing this brand color, okay, great. Let's go see what it did. I love doing this just with AI. It's like I don't like we'll see what it figures out. This one here. Um, what did I say? You said orange? There it is, orange.
Yes.
Orange everywhere.
It's my favorite color. So,
It's my
uh,
favorite color too.
wait, really?
Oh yes, that's a whole nother story we won't go into
Ooh,
now. But
okay. We should have an orange party. I don't know. Something with Jacob
I've
Taylor
got
is
I've got
also
my
an orange
orange fidget
fanatic.
too on my desk. It's all everything's orange.
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, another person for the cult. Wonderful. Very happy.
Just people aren't orange is such an underappreciated color. So
It
I feel
is.
you.
It all of
Yes.
my stuff is orange. And then no, me and Jacob Taylor were talking about our favorite hex codes the other day. I don't know if you've met Jacob Taylor.
I don't know
He
if I
is
have.
our
Yeah.
server guy. He does
Nice.
really amazing work with servers, FileMaker server, and servers in general. So, but he is a similar orange fanatic. I mean, it's if you like the color, I feel like you really like the color. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. Sorry, I was just briefly
I know. Yeah, you get two people who like orange in a room, you never know what'll happen. It's
right.
oh goodness. So
uh, ProofKit can work with any FM server, or is it just AutoFMS? So,
yeah, so ProofKit, I mean, there's I don't want to I want to say yes, it's more flexible, but in reality, like the magic that makes ProofKit so easy to use is kind of tied to auto. Now, if you don't, so what I would say is like, yes, you use it for that. And then if you already have a web app or if you want to go outside of the like sandbox of ProofKit, which is totally fine, that's where you want to use the FMDAPI library, FMDAPI. So this is also a public thing. So we don't really have. I've been working on. I need to redo the docs for this, but this is the JavaScript library for connecting to a FileMaker app, and this is what ProofKit is like installing and setting up for you under the scenes, behind the scenes. So if you don't want to use AutoFMS, this supports that with just a username and password. But I think it's also the only JavaScript library that does support AutoFMS natively. So you can pick how you want to do it. But like this is what we say, the fetch adapter. You can set this all up yourself, and you don't have to. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
yeah, we are getting a guide into
But
using AutoFMS in not next week. I think it's in 2 weeks. Cause no, more than
Todd is going to talk more
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
he's gonna talk about. I'm trying to think about the exact date. The exact date is May 19th is when we'll be doing that. So you can
Yeah,
figure out.
but if you want to, but you don't have to wait till then. It is a free. I can give a quick plug for it because it is also free, and it is a
Yes.
tool that you just install on your FileMaker server. So it supports. It's really the only reason not to use it is if you're on FileMaker Cloud because that's the only platform we don't support because it we don't you don't
I
have they
mean,
just
it's
don't give access. But
yeah, cloud is a different creature.
so anyway, but if you have, but it's completely free. So if you self-host, as long as you're running like a relatively modern version of FileMaker, I think AutoFMS goes back to 19.6, even though that is out of support right now. So we don't recommend you use 19.6, obviously, but it can go all the way back to FileMaker server 19.6. You just install this at the same server is completely
Mm-hmm.
free.
There you
So
go.
give it a try and
Yeah,
then use ProofKit if you want.
give it a shot. So looking to
Yeah, because Todd will
see.
probably talk more about the other features of Auto, which is the deployments. So you can like move files around of your
We
servers.
get
That's one of its key features.
we get a
Yeah,
lot of
so
questions about that, so I'm excited to have people talk about
yeah,
that because when we were doing, me and Richard were doing like our big intro series, we had a lot of people asking how to deploy stuff, and we
this
hadn't
is how.
used Auto in detail, so Richard always wants to see something first before he begins recommending it at large, so I'm excited to have an answer to that going forward when people ask,
Oh
how do
yeah,
I
and there's a lot of
deploy?
cool stuff we're working on with Auto and Auto Deploy and Automatic and everything is yeah, there's some
Yes, so
cool
it'll be
stuff. I'm
fun.
sure Todd will go over that.
Yes, it'll be fun. But this has been really awesome. I'm excited also for day two because we think we only covered like half of what you want to talk about because there's stuff to do with web viewers as well, right? That you wanted to
Yeah, I mean
discuss.
it's a lot of the similar stuff, but yeah, let's I'll be back tomorrow.
I'm
We'll talk
good
about web
to like
viewers
rehash
and
it because there was a lot here and
yeah.
like my brain did explode a little, small explosion, but
Yeah,
it's
I'm
good.
glad we're taking the time to to break it apart.
Yes. Any questions before I wrap this up, people? Or are we good to come back tomorrow and continue? I don't think so. Just kind of a universal agreement that this is cool, which it is. This is very cool.
I'm
Seriously.
glad. Yeah, glad to like it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
All
well,
right,
give it a try, and then tomorrow bring back with more questions. How's that?
yes, go give it a download. I'll download and go mess with it and then, inundate you with questions. All right. Seriously, Eric, thank you very much. This has been awesome. I'm looking forward to having you back tomorrow. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you for Friday. Goodbye, everybody.